We are going to try the cream soda flavour and we're going to see what it's like. Biggest gulp in the world. But it's alright. It's alright. So I thought we'd have a chat while I put my food shopping away. So that's the plan of attack. Let me bring you closer. This is post upper, and I thought we'd have a chat, and I thought I'd multitask. Oh my gosh, bringing this food shopping bag up is mad. So I think a lot of people struggle when they come out of routine and then getting back into routine, and it's something that I speak to a lot of clients about, and this is what I wanted to speak about, was the importance of having a clear plan when you come back. So for me, I know that a food shop starts, sets the tone right, sets everything right, and it makes sure that I can stay within what I need to do. And I think this is where I see a lot of clients fall off, is they don't have the food prepared, they don't have, the routine, and depending on what day you come back from a trip or whatever you have to do, that will determine when you train. So for me, I always plan my training around, I try to plan my training around when I'm flying. So I don't generally, depends on how long the flight is. If it's like, actually to be fair, any flight, I don't like to train when I land, so I try to train before I fly. So that's number one. Number two is, how are you doing your meals? So for me, are you going forward in time or are you going back in time? So because I'm based in the UK, if I'm going to Canada or America, I know I have to add a meal. If I'm going to Asia, is that right? I have to minus a meal. But when you're in your off season, I don't think it really matters, to be honest with you. How do you unpack your food shopping? I have to take everything out of one bag and then I can put it away. I can't just pick things out and then put them away. I don't know, it's just how my brain works. Sometimes it's questionable how my brain works. Going back to that, I think I've been doing this for so long, it's quite easy for me to go back into routine. So for me, I know that I prioritize my training because I do genuinely enjoy it, and it's not a chore for me. When I see some clients, they always see it as a chore, and to be fair, I do think it's also how you've almost been brought up. For me, movement has always been encouraged, so it's something that I do try to encourage with a lot of clients, and it's something that I do see time and time again, that not all clients are like that. I definitely shouldn't be having caffeine, but after I train, I don't know what happens. I sometimes feel a bit wiped. After upper, by the way, not lower. Lower is just lower's a myth. But I think it's also important to, welcome to London, when you just hear sirens 24/7. I think it's also important to encourage, I don't even know where I was, I'm just waffling. But the point of the story here is, when I come back from a trip, food shop is number one priority. Food shop for me, it makes sure that I have food and there's no falling off track. I enjoy the foods I have. I'm going to be honest, I generally just stay on plan 24/7. To be fair, when I went to New York, I ate what I wanted, and because the steps were so high, it was a really fun time. For gluten, dairy free, New York actually does really well. I actually have a lot of options, which is, it's nice to have options, because especially in a place where you do want to enjoy that time and you do want to enjoy, you know, time out, New York was nice. Right, so I've just trained upper, done my food shop, rambled for God knows what, and now I'm actually going to sit down and tell you how I got my period back. Finally, I got my hormones in a good state. And you know what? I am so happy to report this. And this is something that is not spoken about enough, especially when you go through extreme diets or dieting, or if you have a thyroid issue, an autoimmune disease, if you're predisposed to stress. There's so many factors that can influence you losing your period. And this is not the first time that I've had irregular periods. I started having irregular periods about, I want to say nearly 10 years ago. And I now know the importance of having a regular monthly cycle. And I don't think enough women do know how important it is. So chasteberry, maca root, primrose oil, all of these natural supplements are great. But if you read into the research and the literature, people with thyroid issues or autoimmune diseases should stay away from certain ones. So I know, for example, I should stay away from chasteberry because it can interrupt the absorption of my thyroid. So I had to get my monthly cycle back because my hormones were not great. And if you know that as a female, it's so important to have that monthly cycle. And this is something I did not want to speak about until I had gone through it, because I was kind of hinting with my last videos. And if you've not seen the growth era, then please go and watch the rest of the series. But the first video really explains how I'm struggling with my hormones. We can't improve without having better hormones. I need to improve internally before I improve externally. So this is when I actually wanted to come on and talk about, without any notes, without any script, how I actually got my hormones back into a good place again. Now, when you are dieting, I dieted for a total of 32 weeks from memory. Might have been longer, might have been shorter. Please don't quote me on that. I realized that getting my hormones back is a really tricky situation. How I got my hormones back the first time was I made sure that we just gained quite quickly. Now, for someone of my genetic build, I'm 5'7", but that does not mean that I need to gain excessively. So we did a slower approach, reversed, dieted really slowly, then went into my first push-up. That was fine. We started pushing food, I started gaining mass. Then when we ran blood work that first time, everything was fine. 10 weeks later, everything started to decline. Now, we knew that I was trying to regain my monthly cycle, and this is so important that I was still in a stress state, that fight or flight, and I needed to come out of that. Even when you think all your eggs are in order, there's always external stresses in life, and I'm generally a very stressed person. My Oura ring tells me all the time that I'm stressed. Even when I think I'm relaxed, I'm still stressed. The only 2 times I've actually noticed my stress metric go down is either if I'm reading or if I'm meditating. And I can only meditate for 2 minutes, standard, just welcome to the Neurospicy Club. And I really realized the importance of minimizing my stress. So I tried to mitigate that by doing less exercise, working with my coach to actually understand what could we do to improve my blood markers. We could see that clearly my body was still inflamed, and this is very common for people with autoimmune diseases that do decide to diet or prep or any of those symptoms on top of being a female. So it's just like you're piling on all these stresses, and sometimes what I needed to do was take a step back. So what I actually did was when coach boss decided, right, we are not even allowed to push on, we need to get your hormones back in a good state. That is a sign of a really good coach, because they could easily be like, you're lean, right, keep it pushing, you're in a really good state, you're really insulin sensitive, let's keep going. No, females are not mini males. That's the first thing to know. So what I did was I thought, okay, I've just broken my foot. I've just been told that I need to maintain until my body's at homeostasis. What do? I go and book all these trips and all the travel blogs. And if you've not seen them, go and watch them. And me taking myself out of an environment is extremely uncomfortable. I am a creature of habit. Listen, your girl goes away for 2 days. She takes 3 suitcases, 2 bags. She packs up her whole life. So to be able to travel for 10 days, came back for 2 weeks, a week, came back for 5 days, a week again, came back properly. I knew that that change of environment is extremely uncomfortable for anyone that does struggle with that, but at the same time it was super important. Why? Because it took me out of my environment, but I stuck to the same routine. What happened between Turkey and New York was I regained my monthly cycle, and that for me was a relief. Now, yes, I have been dealing with phantom periods. I've also been dealing with PMDD monthly, which is a clear sign that my body was trying to do something. But I know that taking that step back, that stress reduction, increase in foods, we also increased healthy fats, really helped my hormonal system. And this is something I see with my own clients when they are going through hormonal shifts. They neglect the importance of actually making sure that they have enough healthy fats in their diet. As females, we should be having a good, moderate amount of healthy fats, and that varies person to person. Healthy fats can come from avocado, oils, nut butters, why am I going black? Nuts, sunflower oil, any of those realm, you want a good amount of healthy fats. Dark chocolate's my favorite. So it's super important that when you are trying to regain that monthly cycle, yes, you can put in the foods, yes, you can put in the supplements, but what are you doing internally for that internal work to make sure that it works? And I think that from my experience, now getting it back, I realised the importance of having it, but also more importantly, how much better I feel from having it. And as a female, I think it needs to be spoken about more, that yes, this can happen. Yes, it does happen to a large amount of people, women, competitors, non-competitors, but it's how we move forward from that. And I know for myself, when I'm under an immense amount of stress, that's when it can get triggered. And life is always going to throw us curveballs. And I always say this, right? Life is going to go up and go down, and without any highs, you have no lows. But our body does take the hit. And I believe that our body does hold on to stress even more than what we think. So a clear example is, you might be dealing with a lot of stress at work, but your foot might start hurting. That is a clear sign that your body has that stress. And it's not for everyone to feel like the body is that holistic, but I personally do. So I am so happy to have my monthly cycle back. I'm so happy that I get to take you along this journey for the growth era, and now I actually get to put on some size because I've done that internal work, taken that step back, as hard as it was to maintain for 15 weeks. I set myself mini goals. I set my brain to be busy because for the last 10, 11 years, I've always had a goal aesthetically. Bulk cut, there was a goal. Now there wasn't. I had to put goals into other aspects. And that was great for me to actually take a step back and reflect who I am as a person. I know women, we're quite quiet, so I would say drop it in the comments if you have any tips for regaining your monthly cycle. But more, my DMs are always open because I know how it feels to have hormones that are deregulated, not working. You don't feel like you're functioning as a woman. I felt like a letdown. I felt like, why was my body giving up on me? I felt all of these symptoms, and I never want anyone to ever feel like that. And that is why I'm talking my story. It's very vulnerable to be able to come on here and actually speak about this is what I was struggling with, and for people to say, oh, you look like you've maintained. I've got this recently from someone I know. Oh, you look like you've maintained for the last 16 weeks. I don't like to maintain, but I had to for my internal health. And that was the most important aspect of this, is I know that the biggest win in life is to make sure that you feel the healthiest you've ever been. And I know that now, as a woman, who has regained their monthly cycle, this is just a cherry on the cake. So I'll never take it for granted, but my DMs will always be open because I know how many people struggle. Because as soon as I started sharing my own autoimmune journey, bearing in mind I've been autoimmune for over 16, 17 years, the amount of people that flooded my DMs, and the same applies. I know how it feels to have dysregulated hormones, for you not to feel like you're working, for you not to feel female, etc. I've been through all the motions, and I've done this before, but now I'm actually speaking my story. So if you found this useful, please make sure you give me a like and a subscribe. Sorry it was a bit chaotic at the beginning, but I thought, let me sit down, let me film, let me explain why I'm actually doing this. I'm really excited to be able to share this news with you and never feel like you're alone, because that's why I started this YouTube channel. If it helps one person, I've done my job right. So I hope you have a bright and beautiful rest of your day. Make sure you give me a subscribe and a like because it helps my channel, and there'll be 1 to 2 uploads a week. Apart from that, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon.